The man weighs a staggering 800 kilograms. He needs assistance from employees every time he climbs the stairs. The toughened glass beneath his feet creaks and groans. He must tread carefully with every step. Otherwise, the entire staircase might collapse. John, a colleague at the company, is curious about the boss's weight. Determined to uncover what kind of creature the boss is, he decides to secretly investigate. He starts by finding the boss. Then he uses the excuse of testing software to install software on the boss's phone that steals information. This way, he can monitor the boss's every move. However, it doesn't take long for John to discover some clues on the boss's phone. Based on these clues, John arrives at a jewelry store. But when he mentions the boss's name to the shopkeeper's expression immediately becomes serious. Then the shopkeeper presses the anti-theft button, and the iron gate at the entrance quickly descends. John was immediately frightened by the situation. The shopkeeper thought that John was in cahoots with the boss. He intended to pull out a gun and kill John. John quickly explained his intentions. Upon learning that John was inquiring about the boss's identity, the shopkeeper let his guard down. Then he led John to the workshop. He presented a blueprint to John. Then the shopkeeper told John about his own story with the creature. Years ago, a woman came into the shop with a blueprint. She asked him to create a piece using gold in a 1-to-1 ratio of the provided shape. At first, he didn't think much of it. After receiving the blueprint, he started crafting as instructed. Before long, the object was completed. The woman was very satisfied upon receiving it. Then she made the final payment and the name on the check. It was John's boss, Ron. In the following years, almost every day, people would come to the shop with blueprints. And the objects on the blueprints became larger and more complex over time, but the only constant was Ron's signature on the checks, with an eternal signature of Ron. As more and more customers came, the shopkeeper almost ran out of all the gold in the shop. He even threw his wife's gold ring into the furnace. However, when he reached the 108th piece, he realized that what he was creating seemed to resemble human anatomy, and indeed, it was exactly that. After completing the final golden skull, those people never returned to the shop. In other words, the boss spent 80 million to create a golden skeleton for himself. However, the shop owner stated that he had never seen Ron at all. He couldn't be certain if the Ron he mentioned was the same person John referred to. However, when John mentioned the height of the boss, the shop owner immediately confirmed that they were talking about the same person, because the boss's height matched the dimensions of the golden skeleton he created. Upon learning the truth, John had planned to go back to the company to confront the boss. But as he stepped out of the door, a group of masked people suddenly appeared. They pushed John to the ground, and then they started smashing and looting the jewelry store. Fortunately, in this critical moment, the shop owner quickly took out a weapon and killed the criminals. No time for further thoughts. John immediately escaped from the jewelry store. Upon arriving back at the company, John took a hammer and sought out the boss. He asked the boss who he really was. The boss advised John to stay calm, but John swung the hammer at the glass floor, watching the floor about to shatter. The boss felt some fear, but still refused to tell John the truth. Seeing that the boss remained silent, John swung the hammer at the floor once again. The boss instantly fell down to the lower floor. The shattered glass severed his toes. However, when John went to check on the lower floor, the boss had already escaped. Shortly after, John brought the boss's severed finger home. He threw the finger into boiling water. After it had cooked, John used a knife and fork to remove the skin. As expected, the boss's bones were indeed made of pure gold. At this moment, John was deep in thought, wondering how this man could have done it.